So let's just go ahead and get started, and if people come in, they can and have any questions they can ask as we go through. Um, so do we have any news in the FileMaker world that we want to share?
I think there's a new and I learned that from Beverly actually. Um, Beverly, you want to
And
share
I got admonished for posting too early.
for
Mm,
breaking the news? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. They
what, what's the
they te
news?
they te we're recording. Uh,
Mhm.
All
I
right.
put it in the
Same
chat.
for us.
So perhaps in next month's meeting, then it can be
Right,
shared.
right.
Okay. We can always stop the remove the recording or stop the recording, but no worries.
Well, there's a community event tomorrow on Clara Studio.
Right.
Yep. It seems like they're getting back into studio, which is, I think, a good direction for them. Because it's a tool that is desperately needed in the FileMaker world. Um, all right. So anything else?
I mean, Engage is
Oh,
getting
okay.
closer by the day, and other than that, I think they've been touring. I don't know if it's many groups. I think there was someone from Claris at the meetup from, I'm gonna say, FM Disk, about what can we expect for this year's Engage in
Right.
terms of changes to the overall formula or recipe, and other things like that, trying to address things that were coming from the feedback they got out of last year, always seeking to improve. So yeah, but I I don't recall other things than that. I mean, there was a product release in, was it December or November?
The 21.1.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's been a
So
bit
so
at
we
this.
got some new toys, but it's like everything, right? It needs to spend some time in people's hands before we hear echoes of, hey, there's this great new feature in there that here's how, to play with it some, and so on and so on. So I'm sure we'll get some of that as well.
Yeah. There's a new complimentary sign up for Clara Studio. If you haven't got it and haven't played with it.
Yeah, I think we had one from the last time they offered the complimentary
Yeah,
videos. But definitely worthwhile for anybody who hasn't played around with it yet.
right. They
Uh,
made a few updates, but I don't think they've come up with the full what they revealed last year at Engage
Hmm.
with what they call the custom views.
so what they did at last year's NVH still isn't actually live yet.
Not live, yeah,
Okay,
but they've made a lot of improvements in what even they showed then. So
that's good.
yeah,
Um, cool. Well, uh, hopefully this presentation that they're doing tomorrow will give us more insights into where they are with Claris Studio, so that we can
yep.
try to plan for the future. Paul, how are you?
Well, I had a hard time finding the link.
Did you receive the email we sent over? Or
I eventually did find it, but I
okay.
kept getting things from Meetup that didn't have the link on it. There was somebody
Yeah,
else up there who was having the same problem.
Um, Yeah, we stopped posting the link on Meetup because we would have spammers come in and
Okay.
come into the meeting and then use not safe for work videos and stuff. So
Right.
we had to put it behind the CFDG IO group firewall. So today we're going to be chatting about AI, and specifically using code builder tools to to create JavaScript widgets in your FileMaker application. Raise of hands, who so far has done that on any level yet? Robert, I know you
Oh,
have.
just senior demo previously.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
I've seen it, but I haven't done any of it.
cool. So after today, my hope is that it will make it easier. The barrier to entry will be easier for you because the barrier to entry is pretty low. All you need is access to some type of AI code builder, and there are cajillion out there. And you can pretty easily create an AI or create a JavaScript widget without knowing anything about any of those JavaScript, CSS, HTML, any of those
Awesome.
languages, which is great. So I'm going to share my screen and I have a little presentation, and we'll get straight into the action. One second. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Derek, I think if you get rid of the
Immersive view.
immersive view, I think I can get my screen up on my face up on the screen, which would be kind of interesting. So I want to try that. There we go. So here I am. Can you guys see me?
Yeah.
Yes.
See you twice.
um, all right. So AI code builders to create JavaScript widgets in FileMaker. So what is it? What is an AI code builder? So I actually asked ChatGPT to tell me what an AI code builder is, and this is what it told me. It told me that an AI code builder is a tool or platform powered by artificial intelligence designed to assist in the creation, modification, and understanding of code. These tools use machine learning models, often trained in vast amounts of programming data, to provide real-time support to developers. So essentially, if you were going to break it down into a very short sentence, it's ChatGPT, except instead of giving you answers, it's giving you code back. And these are some examples of some tools. There are a million out there. We're going to use the ChatGPT Code Copilot because that's one that I have access to. But you could use a million. I know, Robert, I forgot which ones you've used, but I know you've used a few different ones. I'm not sure if there are any of these or if there are different ones that you've used. There again are a cajillion out there. All right. So before we get into it, let's talk about kind of some elephants in the room about AI, especially in code building. So ethically, there's a pretty good chance that these AI code builders will be replacing people's jobs. If you look at some of the things that a lot of the major tech companies are saying, they're looking to lay off a number of their employees, especially their mid-level developers, and it's exactly because of AI code builders, because they can do the job that a mid-level developer could do better than the mid-level developer can do. So there's definitely kind of a bit of an ethical dilemma when you're using this, because the fact of the matter is eventually this tool can be replacing you. But there's nothing we can really do about that now. The legality of it. The code comes from somewhere. Uh, these code builders are accumulating code from either people using their tool or from outside sources like GitHub and different kind of coding pages. I forgot what the major one was, from Google. And the fact of the matter is, some of the code that they may be taking may be copyrighted to somebody. So there's a potential that what you're using is a potential copyright infringement. I would say, based off of the way the United States is going with their direction with AI, that your chances of having any legal issues with AI are very slim. But that's definitely something to think about. And then finally, privacy. Assume that everything that you are sending to the AI tool is now part of the public domain. So do not share any confidential information. All right, so let me move my face. So these are some findings, some things that I found in playing around with AI code builders. The first item is the initial request when you're making a request to the code builder is the most important. Because that's what it uses to base the rest of the job on. So you have to make sure that the first request is detailed and specific and really gets to what you need. Because if not, then you can have some issues. And sorry, I have a couple of people emailing me asking me for links to this, so I'm just going to reply to them real quick. All right. So the second item is be specific. The more vague your request is, the more opportunity you're giving the AI code builder to go off in its own direction. Third, always attach a copy of your code when asking it to make alterations to it, so that it knows what to reference. Sometimes it can forget what code is actually in your what is in your file. So I've found that to be really helpful. After the initial build, don't expect it to send you back the full HTML code. Instead, ask it to send you only the change in the code, that the changes in the code, and to explain what they changed. And then you have to go and actually manually change it in the code. What I found is when I was asking it to send me back the full code, it would miss previous pieces of code that it wrote. So it wouldn't, if you just completely copied and pasted everything, you would miss other pieces. And finally, it's not the greatest at multitasking, especially in the alteration stage. So I found asking it to do one change at a time is best, or if you're going to ask it to make multiple changes, you have to be specific and separate those changes out, and then make sure when it actually goes and does the change, that it does everything you needed. And let's play. So now I'm going to change from sharing this to sharing my screen. All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So let me pull up ChatGPT. So I'm using ChatGPT, the code copilot, for this. If you go into ChatGPT, if anybody had ChatGPT, whether you have it in the desktop app or the web app, you can click Explore GPTs, and this can be pretty wonky in programming, and it'll list the top programming apps. And this one's the #1 app. There are other ones for other coding languages, SQL, Python. If you want to build a full-out website, this one will do it. I found Code Copilot to do the job. There are probably better ones out there, but that's the one that I'm using for today. So what we are going to be building today is, we've done presentations in the past on this e-signature application. So I'm going to recreate this e-signature application using ChatGPT. So I'm just going to go and download it. Downloading. And I'm going to go and drag this to my desktop so that it's easy to find. And so this is the application. I've shared this with the group before. Pretty simple widget. It when you click this sign button, it opens up this signature page that you can write on. The undo button will undo the most recent writing. The clear button will clear everything out. The cancel button will leave the page, and the submit button will submit it and actually save it as a image. The code is pretty simple. We have it separated out with our HTML, two different JavaScript fields, CSS, and then some JavaScript functions. For what we're going to be doing next, we're not going to be using all of these fields, but it's important. We're creating a calculation field at the end that's actually getting pushed to the web viewer. And it's based off of this HTML field with using these star CSS1, star CSS2, star JS1 to replace. It substitutes that for what's in these fields. So pretty simple stuff. And then if we look at the actual web viewer, it's all it is a web viewer. And I realized I called it web calendar. I'm going to change it to a web signature, if I can spell it correctly, because I think that makes more sense for what it is. And it's very simple. It's just looking at the HTML calc field, using the data text HTML. I'm not sure if this is needed anymore. I think this was built in FileMaker 18 or 19 when it was needed. And then the HTML code.
I think it's only needed if you have snippets. So like you can, conceivably have something which just says script and it executes, but it's not a full HTML.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it might need to be, or you're just showing an image. It would be the data, but then you're doing an image, not
Got it.
text. Okay.
So this is probably not needed now. I'm going to keep it because I don't want to break it during this presentation, but I'll play around with it after the fact. It's not needed.
Also, just to jump in, I believe if not that, something else was required to make this render in WebDirect. I recall having to put similar
that might
text
be
in
That
true.
might be it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
might be the case. Yeah.
All right. So then I have allow interaction because obviously we're going to interact with it, and allow JavaScript to perform FileMaker scripts. Those two things checked. The other ones don't need to be checked. And that's basically it. So pretty simple layout here. So we're going to duplicate this record and call the other one, the second record signature old, the first record signature, and we're going to clear all this out because we're going to recreate it. All right, so it's empty now. So we're going to be leaving FileMaker for a bit. So I'm going to close this because we're going to go into ChatGPT. All right, so I want to give you guys an example of what happens when you give it a vague request. So we're in the code helper. I'm going to say, build me a signature pad using JavaScript, CSS, HTML with clear, undo. This should be submit and cancel buttons. Now, obviously, if I was wanting to build this, I'm giving it as little information as possible here to build this applet, and let's see what it does. All right. So something that's interesting to start is it combined the style with the HTML all into a single file, which is interesting. When I've done this, sometimes it does a single file, and sometimes it separates them into separate CSS and JavaScript into separate files. So that's interesting that it did it this time with all just in HTML. And once it's done, we'll copy it and see what it looks like. Any questions while we're waiting for this to get done? All right, finally. Okay, so I'm gonna copy it into code editor. I'm just using Sublime Text, but you can really use any code editor. I'm going to save it, and let's go and find that. Go, new folder, test1, and I'll call this signature.html. Save it, and now I'm going to open up that and see what it looks like. Huh. So interesting. It didn't give me a title, gave me kind of a square signature pad. The clear, undo, the buttons are kind of different colors. Let's see if how the functionality works. So undo did exactly what it was supposed to do. Clear did what it was supposed to do. Let's see about cancel. It told us the page says signature canceled, and submit says signature submitted, but didn't actually do anything. Interesting. So now let's throw that exact same thing at it again. And now we're in a new request, right? So we're in a new request, but obviously the same code builder, a new conversation, and let's see what it gives us. So, whoa, network was lost. Let's retry that. Here we go. So this time, interestingly, it's separating out the CSS from and the JavaScript from the HTML. So the same exact thing, two different times, it's already giving us a very different response. So this is the CSS, the HTML. So you have the CSS when that gets done. All right, CSS is done. Let's copy that. And the JavaScript.
Did you change anything to ask it for?
I did not change a thing.
Okay.
Exact same question.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about with being specific, because if you're not, it'll go off and do whatever it wants to do at that time. And almost like a person would, will give you a different answer each time. All right. So there's our JavaScript. All right, so let's save this, all these guys, and see how it renders. So we're going to create a new folder called test2, and we'll call this signature.html. The style needs to be called styles.css. And the JavaScript needs to be called script.js. JS. All right, and let's see what happens when we open this guy up. Interesting. So this is what it was the first time. This is what it looks like the second time. So here it
Oh.
did add a header, and it changed the button colors are different. And let's see if how the functionality works. Undo, undo, undo. Clears everything out. Cancel. Because
Cancel really cancels.
I think that took us to my computer, and submit gives us check the console. So you'd have to actually open up the console for the link. Okay, so these are examples of how I would not go about having ChatGPT or any code builder help me. So I'm going to close these guys out, and now I have a more specific prompt, the one that we're actually going to be using. So I'm going to copy and paste that into here. So we're going to start a new conversation. And oh, I think I switched to ChatGPT. I'm going to go to Copilot. Here we go. All right. So now I'm going to say, build me a signature pad using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The page should include a header titled Sign Below, a signed canvas, and buttons below the canvas. I'm just going to add a comment here. Sure. The buttons will be the following. Clear completely removes all drawings. Undo removes the most recent drawing. Submit saves the canvas to a .png image and stores it as base64 text. It then should run the function FileMaker.perform script, save signature, which is the script that I have already built in FileMaker, and then with the parameter of the base64 code of the image. And cancel runs the function FileMaker.perform script cancel signature, which is also in FileMaker with no parameter. The button should have a black background with white writing. They should be on the same row and ordered from left to right: clear, undo, submit, cancel. The clear and undo buttons should be grouped on the left side. And this is important because if we look back at this, and shoot, it's not going to show. Let me get back here and just change this to the relationship is just basing on the word signature. So if I change this to signature, it should render. If I go back, or may even be just based on the first record. Never mind. It must then be based on the first record and not the word. But anyway, if we look back at that page, and I should have kept that up actually. Let me delete this because I want to be able to see. Show again.
I think you could also just unzip a new copy of your download, right?
Yeah. But I'm just not sure why it's not showing up through the relationship. I didn't change anything there, but yeah, good call. So I'll just start from scratch here. And okay, so we're just going to go back to the signature page. Okay, so this is what we want it to look like. So I want to keep this here because we want to use this as the reference of what we want it to match. All right, so coming back here, see how these buttons are grouped and not
Oh, yeah.
just evenly spaced. If you don't use the words, and I've tested this a billion times, if I don't use the word grouped, it will not group them together. And it takes you 3 or 4 times of asking back and forth to finally get it to mimic this in any way. So grouped on the left side of the screen, submit and cancel, grouped on the right. The background of the page and for the signature pad should be white. Build me the code for this page in 3 separate files. And now I'm going to tell it exactly the name of the files: index.html, style.css, and script.js. So here I'm being way more specific with what I'm asking it to do.
And Justin, just as you are going through this, is this specific AI vision aware? Meaning, could you like hit the plus sign and provide a screen capture of the UI to mimic?
That is a great question. I have not, I know that you can send it the code. I don't know if you can send it the image. I've never tried an image. I've never tried that before. We got, seems like we have our HTML and CSS, and now we're just waiting for our JavaScript to finish rendering. All right, so we're good. So we can get all these, and I'm gonna let's go back into this, and we'll go. I didn't do that last time. I want to go to this folder and create a new folder and call FileMaker. Call this signature.html. We're going to call this one style.html and just make sure. Yep, style.css. Yep. And this one script.js. All right, so now we have our 3 files. If we come back into here and open it up, let's see how it looks. So this is our final test. All right, so this is pretty good. If we look at this compared to this, that's not it. I must have left that page, so we'll go back here. If we look at these two compared to each other, shoots. Oh no. Oh, did not like that. Where'd my FileMaker go? There you go. So if we look at this compared to this, it's pretty close. So there are some changes that we can make. To start, I think this sign below can be a little bit smaller, not bold, and closer to the canvas. And then these buttons can also be a little bit smaller and have slightly rounded corners. So let's ask ChatGPT to make those changes and see what it does. So I'm going to start by saying, great start. This is how my files look now. And I'm going to attach them. So come in here, take my files. Even though it sent me the files and I haven't made any changes to them, I still want to send it to the ChatGPT because it'll mess up if I don't. I'd like to make the following changes. Let's make the sign below header a bit smaller, unbold it, and move it closer to the canvas, closer vertically. Let's make the buttons smaller and give them rounded, slightly rounded edges. I think those are the only changes that we have to make. The one thing we didn't check is the actual functionality. So let's just make sure this thing works. Undo, undo, that worked. Clear works. Now I don't expect submit or cancel to do anything because we're not in FileMaker. So we'll have to test those in FileMaker. So now let's, oh, and then I need to ask it, please only send me changes and explain the changes. Changes. I don't know if caps lock does anything for it, but we'll see.
Do you find that comments like great start, that kind of conversational comment makes any kind of, has any kind of effect?
Probably not, to be completely honest. But I don't know, it adds a little bit of humanity to it.
It's
And
impossible to test since you can send the same prompt, the same exact prompt twice and get different results.
Yeah. All right, so I am going to, and so it, and this is one of the things that I don't like is it doesn't tell me here what should I do with the already existing code, right? The color and the text align. Now I know that we should keep both of these, but it doesn't tell me whether or not to keep those. So I'm just going to add these to it. And then updates to button. So here, and again, so there is padding already. So we're going to replace the padding. There is font size. So we're going to replace font size and border. There is no border radius. So we're just going to do that. And let's see what happens. That's pretty good.
yeah,
Sign below is still not
A little high, yeah.
still a little high. So let's let it know. All right, here is my and I'm going to send it the code again. Let's see what it does this time. And generally I find after I say the first time to only send me the changes, it'll in the future only send me the changes. Okay. So see here it has header margin 20. Now we're changing, it wants us to change it to header margin 10, 0. And then for H1, it has margin bottom 10 and it wants us to change it to 5. So now, let's see now. Still far away. So this is where you can either continue asking it or just play around with these numbers. Like if we change this to 0, what happens? It gets better. We change this to
you've got padding and margin.
-5. And I'm just gonna keep on keep on moving it until it's what I want. So that's good.
Cool.
We now compare this to this. It's pretty close. There are some slight changes. I think this is really using a dark gray as opposed to a black. It's a little bit bigger than this. If I wanted, the spacing is just a little bit off, but if I were to have used this to start, I'll be plenty happy with it. So now we're going to go ahead and actually move it into FileMaker. Any questions on what I've shown so far? Nope. All right, good. So we're going to call this signature hold. We're going to duplicate you. We're going to take the first one, have that be signature, and we're going to remove everything from it. All right, so now we're empty. So the one change that I have to make to my code is it can't be referencing these outside files in FileMaker. In FileMaker, all of the code has to be within the actual field. So we're just going to change this to do style, and then we're going to use the substitute field the substitute text that I was using before for the CSS, and same for the JavaScript. Is that clear what I'm doing there?
Yeah.
All right, so now I'm going to take the CSS, copy that in. I'm going to take the JavaScript and copy that in. And now if we look at our HTML code down here, you can see we have our CSS, we have our HTML, and we have our JavaScript. So we should be ready now. So let's see what happens now if we go back in and try to create a signature. All right, so we have our signature pad. It looks good. I can undo. I can clear. I can cancel. It comes out. And last one, submit. All right. So we have now essentially recreated the signature pad with, I would say, almost no actual real alterations to the code, just ChatGPT making the alterations. So as one addition, I'm going to, let's say this isn't a signature pad, but is actually a drawing board, right? And so we're gonna draw happy faces, or we're gonna draw, a dog, or stick figure, whatever. We want to be able to draw in here, submit it, and then have this, and then when we click this button again, have that image reappear here so that we can play around with it again, and change it from its form here. So we have to make a couple of alterations to the code in FileMaker, and then we're going to ask ChatGPT to add a function, and you guys will see that work pretty quickly and efficiently. So the one change we have to make is just when we're entering the signature pad, we want to get the value, the base64 code of the actual image. And I'm just going to use base64 encode RFC. And then this file, and that'll turn it into a piece of base64 text. And then we're going to run perform JavaScript in WebViewer, and object name. I think I have to change it again because I used a different file. Sorry, that's gonna be the parameter, and we'll call the function insert signature. And one thing that I found with these with JavaScript widgets is because we're going to be doing this on opening, it needs a second to render before you can send it the perform JavaScript. Otherwise, it won't render. So I'm just going to do a pause of 0.1 seconds, just so it quickly is able to render beforehand. And I'll show you guys the difference and why I did that. And then I believe we have to go back into here and just change the name of this. Yeah, it's still called web calendar. I need to change it to web signature. All right. So now we're just going to go into ChatGPT and say, all right, here is my updated code. Always, like I said, send it updated code. I would like to add a function called insert signature. that ingests base 64 code of the signature image and renders it on the canvas. And let's see what it does. So it's just going to give me this function. So you can see function insert signature. It's expecting the base 64 code. Then it's going to do a bunch of stuff that I don't know or understand, and hopefully have it show up in here. So let's add this to our JavaScript. So add it to the JavaScript here at the end. And we'll copy all this JavaScript, come into our signature. Oh, sorry. Didn't want to go there. I want to go to edit code, add the JavaScript. Paste it in there. Come back. So obviously we don't have anything drawn yet, but now let's draw this, submit it. Now when we come back in, it's there. Now we can go and finish our drawing, give it a nose, give it some eyebrows, and submit it and continue from there. And what's cool is if you want to, you can't, if you click undo, nothing will happen, but you can clear it out and start from scratch. So I found it to be a pretty cool tool. Now let's see what happens if you remove this pause, like I was saying before. When I click this, it doesn't render. So you need that pause in order for it to render for whatever reason. So this is obviously a very simple example of using JavaScript or using ChatGPT to create a JavaScript widget in FileMaker. Normally, these take a lot longer to build, and I'm going to show you guys something that we built using this exact thing. We have a time tracker that we use to manage our timesheets every day. So, to make sure that we submit our timesheets, and this is now all JavaScript. So we have, not only do we have this timesheet page, so just looking at like a previous day, and I need to refresh the page because I left just go back. Because I went into layout mode, it wasn't expecting that. So now none of the, oh, here we go. So we have our list of timesheets. You can click this plus button and it'll move the time. You can click this and it'll delete it. You click on an item, it'll allow you to go in there and edit the timesheet. You click this plus button, and all of this is JavaScript. This is not, all this is HTML JavaScript. This is not FileMaker. 0% of this is FileMaker. And confirm, you can see no FileMaker included. And we built this all using the code Copilot with minimal alterations on our end. I mean, obviously FileMaker scripting to manage a lot of these functions, but otherwise all using JavaScript. So this is kind of has dark mode up, light mode, a lot of different functionalities that we were able to build without knowing anything about JavaScript, CSS, or HTML. All right, so that's my presentation. Any questions, comments? Like to know if anybody else has any other things that they've been able to build using these types of tools that they would like to share, or have found any coding tools to be better than any other. Kind of opening up the floor.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I have a quick question.
Sure.
You used the Copilot to get your code and you pasted it into your FileMaker, but we didn't actually see what was going on when you clicked those buttons to submit. For example,
Oh, I can show you that.
was that like a script you already had and you just called
Yeah,
it?
so that was
Oh,
a
okay.
that was a
All
script
right.
in FileMaker. So
Okay.
just click sign here. And we just do so this submit button is running perform FileMaker script. So it's just running the save signature and it's sending as the parameter the base 64 code. If we look
Okay.
here,
Okay.
yeah,
Cool. All
so
right.
that's basically what it's doing.
But that wasn't in your code that was generated. Or
That no,
was it?
it was
Okay.
just running the save signature function. It was just
Okay.
running the function of perform FileMaker script
Okay.
with the save signature FileMaker script.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
So,
really
and
very neat. Your comment about don't ask it to recreate the whole code file, I think is very good. I've ran into that several times. I use a system called High Charts. I don't know if you ever came across that. It's pretty good graphing system. You give it data and it can generate all kinds of charts and exploding pie charts and stuff like that. But if you ask OpenAI to modify the existing code that you hope it remembers, you usually get back something that won't run at all. It's not even valid.
Yeah.
and
The only thing that I found with high charts in particular is that its knowledge of the HTML that you need for high charts is not always up to date, which is unfortunate. Not other than downloading the documentation for high charts and giving that to OpenAI, which is really tedious and creates a large file. I haven't found any way around that to tell it which version of the documentation it ought to be using.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Luckily the code that I was using, you can see it wasn't very long. None of it was very long, so it was pretty easy to be able to take it and send it into the app. But if you have, thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of lines of code and you need to send all of that to the tool in order for it to help you, I could see that becoming a problem.
Have you tried doing any of this to create FileMaker code itself?
I have not. No.
You might. I haven't tried it in about a year, but it used to be pretty poor. It
Yeah.
really didn't
Yeah.
know
It doesn't.
FileMaker.
Yeah. It doesn't understand FileMaker as well as what you're getting with the HTML and the CSS
Right.
and JavaScript, which is going to be more common for more people. It's like asking it PHP, it's probably going to do a pretty good job.
Good.
You ask it Python, it's going to do a pretty good job because those are more common coding languages. Whereas for FileMaker, it's not as much out there, and what's out there that they scrape to build up their libraries is a combination of everything that was good and a whole lot of bad.
What I
So
have had tremendous success with is asking OpenAI to generate SQL code to
yes,
perform natural language search
yes,
and then executing that in FileMaker with an execute SQL.
right,
And
Yeah.
that is it's pretty reliable if you set up the prompt correctly.
right.
Yeah, it's all about prompting. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
like what they're going to be teaching kids in school in 2028 and 2029 isn't going to be how do you add 2 plus 2. It's going to be how do you write the correct prompt in order for AI to tell you how to add 2 plus 2.
Absolutely.
You should be able to ask AI how to write the prompt.
Yeah. You probably can actually.
Instead of asking how to spell strawberry, ask it how to ask or teach kids how to ask the AI how many R's are in strawberry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
Thank you. Be happy to, obviously we'll share the video so you can, if you want to follow along and actually try to do it yourself, the uh, file is on our website, and you can follow along with the video and see what happens when you try to recreate it.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you what I would like to be able to do. I've been trying to get a dictation system to work
Mhm.
properly, not using the iPhone, which is pretty easy, but using your actual computer.
Okay.
And so you have a container and FileMaker, and you want to be able to speak into your machine's microphone and have an audio file created. Monkey Bread has a plugin that in theory will do that, and it works very well in Windows, and it works very well on the Mac as long as your dictation is not 10 seconds or longer, in which case it creates a corrupted file that you can't use for anything. Well, a way around this is to use JavaScript.
Oh, okay.
Okay, in the web viewer, because you can turn on your microphone that way.
Oh,
I
interesting.
did get that to work, and now I have to figure out how to get that to an audio file.
Oh,
And
it'll do that for you. If you just send it the code and say, "Hey, get it to an audio file," it'll do
Yeah,
that.
so I'm gonna try that. I'll let you know how that works next month.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Or doesn't work.
and you need the audio files in FileMaker.
Yes. And the reason is I then send it off to Whisper One, which is one of the OpenAI files that converts the audio to text. And I use that to populate fields in FileMaker.
Yeah.
So the idea here, I'm going to give away a secret here. Don't copy my idea. If you go into a doctor's office, oftentimes after you go, they have to write down what happened. They don't write very well. My father was a doctor. It was just terrible. If they could speak it and get that information to go into a form, which is the form that goes to the insurance company, you've saved a lot of time and avoided a lot of errors.
Totally.
So
And
that's
you don't
the
want to,
target.
yeah, and you don't want to rely on a third-party tool to do that, right? Because
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, HIPAA would not like that at all. But you
I mean,
can't give an audio file to it.
on the device, right? Like on my Mac, I can run Mac Whisper, and it's going to do pretty much what you're saying. It's going to transcribe
That
the
is
text,
correct.
and
That is
it's
correct.
going to and then I mean, it's not even going to care where the text go. I could put it into FileMaker. I could put it in a browser and into anything, as opposed to an implementation that would be dedicated to FileMaker. So that's the thing. But I guess yeah, you could, if you package all of it in a web browser, then you no longer depend on anything to
As long as the web browser is running locally, you don't want to send this audio file literally up to OpenAI, but you can put Whisper One on your own machine.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, Paul, good luck with that. Hopefully, next month you can share with us how it's going. All right. Well, speaking of next month, I was thinking February 26th, which is the final Wednesday of the month. I think that's pretty much exactly a month, almost exactly a month from today. Any objections to that, or does that look like a good date?
Good for me.
That's good.
Awesome.
Would it also be 5 p.m.?
Yeah. I mean, how do we like that? Do we like 5 p.m.? Would we
Yeah,
prefer it to be at 4?
For
It's a little better
East
for me,
Coast,
I'll say.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would prefer 5 o'clock. What the people who we were talking to we're looking for 5 o'clock, so we'll continue that. Um, does anybody have any topics they'd like to present next month? Otherwise, we'll go out and find somebody to present.
I've been wondering about this stuff with agents. Most of the agents that I've seen so far are really very simplistic and not terribly useful. The only usefulness they create is that the grammar of the output is better.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything done at all in the FileMaker world using agents, and I'm wondering if that's something anybody is doing.
Thought I heard from, was it Ian, who's
Probably.
looked into it to basically, I think he was using vocal commands to query, his system. So he would say, okay, like the vocal command is going to get interpreted, and it can then turn it to like just a few things to say, okay, give me information about, say, inventory levels, or attendance for events, or whatever. And then if nothing is a fit, just say you don't have any information about this. So um and but I think it's, yeah, early stages in all cases, but it's trying to end up where it's like an extra layer or an API on your FileMaker backend, basically, where you would just issue voice commands and get something back.
Mm-hmm.
What's the
Well,
link to your file that you used, said was on your website?
Oh, I'll share it.
Okay.
Let me see. I have it here.
in the signature file?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you sent that out once.
Yeah, I think I've done 2 or 3 presentations on that file because we turned it into an add-on, did a presentation of showing the group at the beginning of add-ons how to use an add-on with that file. It's basically become our playground for trying things out. So
Mhm.
worked out for this purpose as well. I just shared it in the chat, the link.
Yeah, I see that.
Got it.
Thanks.
Welcome. All right. Well, are there any other topics we'd like to discuss tonight, or shall we adjourn the meeting and leave the trees behind us?
I'm good.
I'm good too.
All right. Well, thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you next month.
And
That
happy
was
Groundhog Day to everybody.
that's right. That was excellent, by the way. So
Yeah,
thank you.
really good. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Justin.
I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.